Every dog owner's wish is that their dog lives out their entire life happily with little to no health problems. Some people think that the key to this is regular physical exercise, while others think it's mental enrichment. But what myself and many others believe is that the key to a long, healthy life stems from the root that keeps your dog alive in the first place, and that is food. If you want to provide your dog the most optimal life, feeding your dog a diet that they'll thrive on is a must. Let's get into what that means. Number 1, adding moisture to the food. If you're feeding your dog dry kibble, something incredibly simple but super beneficial to add is moisture. Kibble is cooked at very high temperatures, removing almost all moisture within it. This is very dehydrating to your dog, so they need to drink a lot of water throughout the day to compensate for this. Dehydration is a major stressor on the kidneys, and it also results in very concentrated urine. If the dog is in a constant state of acute dehydration from a low moisture food, this can result in urinary tract infections and possibly even kidney disease later in life. Adding something like filtered warm water will not only hydrate the food, but it will bring out the flavors and aromas as well. And additionally, it's free. If you don't mind putting in a little more effort or money though, something like plain bone broth will not only hydrate the meal, but it'll also provide natural glucosamine and chondroitin for joint health. Another moisture source is plain kefir, which is fermented cow, sheep, or goat's milk that's loaded with probiotics for gut health, even more than what yogurt contains. Number 2, adding in or feeding wet food. You know how we just talked about the importance of moisture? Well, where kibble is about 10% moisture, wet food is around 75% moisture. Removing a portion of the dry food and adding in some wet food to replace it will not only add to the moisture content of the meal, but the ingredients within the meal will be of higher quality as well. Let's compare dry food and wet food from this popular brand. This is the chicken and rice kibble. The first 7 ingredients are chicken, rice flour, corn gluten meal, whole grain corn, chicken byproduct meal, whole grain wheat, and soybean meal. Only 2 out of 7 of these are animal-based ingredients. Now, let's take a look at the first 7 ingredients in the wet food. Chicken, chicken broth, liver, pork lungs, brown rice, oatmeal, and carrots. Now, that's a lot better. While wet food is a bit more expensive, it's certainly worth it considering these small but impactful benefits. Number 3, adding fresh whole foods. Adding fresh, species-appropriate foods like cooked muscle meats, fish, and eggs is a major step in the right direction after feeding canned food. Things like chicken breast, lean ground turkey, beef stew meat, egg, and oily fish like sardines and Atlantic salmon can usually be found at your local grocery store. Muscle meats and eggs contain bioavailable B vitamins, amino acids, and minerals that are essential for your dog's body. Additionally, oily fish provide omega-3s, which actually aren't considered essential by AAFCO, even though the NRC states that they are. Because pet food companies follow AAFCO's guidelines, their foods don't provide omega-3s unless specifically stated. This means pets are going to miss out on omega-3s, which can improve cognitive function as well as skin and coat health. I do want to note that organ meats should be avoided as they contain high levels of fat-soluble vitamins that are already provided in the food. For instance, vitamin A is very high in liver, and if this is fed in excess, it may cause some problems down the line. Number 4, give raw meaty bones a few times a week. This may sound a little scary, not only because it's fed raw, but also the fact that there's bone in it. But I promise, if you feed the properly sized meaty bone for your dog, this will be very beneficial in the long run. Let's say you're feeding wet food only. This is great, but a downside to wet food is that your dog isn't crunching on anything to clean their teeth anymore. This is where raw meaty bones come in to save the day. The gnawing, chewing, and crunching action is the key to keeping clean teeth that are free of tartar, and in turn, greatly reduces the risk of periodontal disease. Before I go any further, I want to note that meaty bones need to be fed raw and can never under any circumstances be fed cooked. The bone's composition changes when cooked and can cause splintering if ingested. Common raw meaty bones that are safe for dogs are raw poultry, rodent, and rabbit meaty bones, as well as small pork and lamb ribs. If you're giving a raw meaty bone to a small dog, things like chicken necks and wingtips are a great option for them. And for larger breeds, these, as well as larger bones like pork and lamb ribs, are also great options. You want to make sure that there is still raw flesh surrounding the bone, which acts as a cushion as they chew. Additionally, if you're feeding a commercial food, feeding no more than 2 to 3 raw meaty bones a week is ideal, as they contain minerals like calcium and phosphorus that are already provided in the food. Number 5. Adding raw meats. Remember all the benefits I mentioned that cooked meat, fish, and eggs provide? Did you know that there are a few other benefits to this when feeding them raw? When meats are cooked, this removes a lot of the moisture, which in turn removes a lot of the water-soluble nutrients like B vitamins and some amino acids. Like wet food, raw meat is also around 75% moisture, so on top of a full stack of vitamins and amino acids, raw meat also boosts the water intake as well. When you first start adding chunks of raw muscle meat to the meal, you only want to give tiny bits so you can let your dog's body get used to the new ingredient. I also suggest starting out with a white meat protein like chicken or turkey. Raw muscle meats can be added to the kibble or canned food. Just make sure it's not taking up more than 20% of the meal. Because once it does, it's no longer just a topper, and that raw portion will need to be balanced. Of course, out of everything you can feed to improve your dog's overall quality of life, a species-appropriate, fully raw diet is what is believed by many to be the best diet. Humans created kibble and canned food for convenience. But is it really what's the most beneficial to their body? Most of these foods are fortified with synthetic nutrients because the ingredients in the food can't provide them all. But when feeding a balanced raw diet consisting of muscle meats, organ meats, raw meaty bones, egg, and a small portion of seafood ingredients, most essential nutrients will be met. This is only scratching the surface of the raw diet for dogs, though. Watch this video to learn more about the benefits of feeding raw to your dog.